here's something really, really funny. My eyesight is so bad, I can't see the viewfinder, so I can't tell if I'm in focus or not. The other day, I filmed two videos, both were out of focus. Oh my god, the way I was crying. Oh my god. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing very, very well. This is a setting we haven't been in a while. I just thought, why not? I also can't be able to get out of bed, so that's why we're here. For today's video, I thought we would talk further about the 5-year time jump that happens after the CC reveal and kind of talk about what kind of happens in those 5 years that we don't see, but we're told these things kind of happened during that time. Put my little teddies here. These were my dog's toys. He's passed away sadly, but my opinion on the time jump is I think it's very unnecessary, but I think season 6 being 7 were themselves quite unnecessary, and if I was the director of the show, I would have ended the show with the CC reveal, because I don't know, to me the time jump felt very disconnected from the rest of the show. When we came back to the show, it just felt very odd. I think we had kind of outgrown the show at that point, or just me personally. I think the Liars have had their time in Rosewood, they've had their time as teenagers, A's had their time kind of with the girls, and I feel like we had got to a point where actually we can all move on from this now, and the Liars didn't necessarily have to come back and go through everything that they went through again. But also it felt very weird to me. I have this thing with TV shows where I hate when they modernize the TV show. Of course, TV shows have to, fit with the times and grow up with, the new technology we have and things like that. So I totally understand why shows do this. It's not that I'm like, why did they do that? But when shows start to do that, I kind of start to move away from the show because it's not something that I enjoy, really. I think because I'm so in that life of modern technology and things like that, I don't like watching TV shows that adapt to it. You know what I mean? Unless like TV shows that start off modern and continue to be this the whole way through, I have nothing, against that, because they've kind of set their, what they're doing, whatever. But because Pretty Little Liars started in kind of like the 2010 vibe era, I like to call it, the TV shows like Gossip Girl and Vampire Diaries and Pretty Little Liars and things like that, where they started off in this kind of vibe where, phones were a thing, but it was like those really old phones, like the flip phones that we used to have back in the day, things like that. I mean, I'm only 22, well, I'm not 22 yet, 22 soon, but I still had a flip phone and a Nokia and things like that. Because Pretty Little Liars started as that, when they did the full circle thing, or not really, but like coming to a more modern thing with their phones and things like that, I didn't vibe with it because it's just not what I'm into. Also, when A started to use emojis and things like that, I was so withdrawn because I'm like, this is not what I grew up with as a show. I get it, like I said, you have to adapt to modern life, and that's totally fine. So I'm not like, I get it. It's not that I don't get it, but yeah, I just started to withdraw from that, really. But also because it had been 5 years, I'm like, these people are grown up now. Like, I don't know what age you finish education in America, because here it's 18, so in 5 years we'd be 23, but I don't know if America, if it's 16 and then 5 years would be 21, so you'd either be 21 or 23, right? These people are grown up now, like they're adults and they're living their life, so them having to come back, I'm like, we're dragging it on. We are dragging it on, like, completely. I love Pretty Little Lies. You wouldn't think it because of my channel. I'm like, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. I love Pretty Little Liars, but I'm also aware of when a TV show has a set life. Like, for example, I think 13 Reasons Why should have had 1 or 2 seasons max. I think Stranger Things should have had maybe 3 seasons. Pretty Little Liars should have had up to the CC reveal, and that's it. Either they would have changed the CC reveal or kept it how it was and leave it like that. Because I feel like that was a good ending. I feel like 2 A's is a really good conclusion rather than 3 A's. I feel like 3 is very unnecessary, but when you have the 2 A's, you have Mona, you have CC. CC took over from Mona, Mona started it. Perfect. Perfect. Let's leave it there. Let's all go home. But I think season 6B and 7 were just unnecessary, and especially because when push comes to shove, the end game couples that are shown through the early seasons of the show, they end up just getting back together and being endgame anyways. So it's like, okay, we've come back to how we basically ended it in season 6A. So I just felt like it was just a bit unnecessary and it wasn't really needed. And the storylines that happen are just really unnecessary too. And it's annoying because the storylines that happen for me make the show into quite a bit of a joke. And I love Pretty Little Lies so much, but like when I recommend it to someone, for example, I'm like, oh, but by the way, at the end of the show, don't take it seriously. But I don't want to be doing that. I don't want to give people warnings about watching the show, but I kind of have to because I feel like it does get to a point where the show is comedic, because the whole Alex Drake stuff, especially with the accent, bless Troyanne, love Troyanne, probably the best actress on the show, but the British accent makes it very comedic, and just the whole twin thing makes it really unserious and kind of pulls us away from the original Pretty Little Liars, which I just didn't like. Whether that's me, it probably is just me. I just don't really like change, and I don't like drifting too far away from what you're known as and what you're known to be, and taking chances or taking experiments is fun and fresh, and I do like seeing it, but the way Pretty Little Liars went, it's not a fave. It's not, but I love the show and it's very frustrating. But nonetheless, let's talk about what actually happened in those 5 years, because a lot happens actually to the Liars and their lives, and I feel like a lot of it gets brushed over because we're just kind of told, oh, this happens, by the way. So let's get into it. So what happened to the Liars and kind of the other main side characters in those 5 years? So, Alison, when we come back, we meet Alison, and Alison is now a teacher at Rosewood High. I'm very against this. I don't like Alison past when she comes back to life. I don't like the redemption arc. I love the mean girl character that she was. Obviously not love as in like I support it, but I think it was a really good character, one of the best villains in like a teen show. Love it. But then she comes back and there's this whole redemption arc, which I hate it, so against it. And this kind of completes her redemption arc. She is a teacher. I don't really know the timeline of her education because she missed maybe like 1 or 2 years of education. So I don't know whether she retook years. It doesn't seem like it. So I don't know how she got qualified to be a teacher, because there would be such a gap of education in her education, but that's not for me to judge. Alison is now married to someone called Elliot Rollins, which is not his actual name. His actual name is Archer Dunhill, and spoiler, he ends up being a total psychopath, and he tortures Alison. He's like working with Cece because he also loves Cece. Um, so spoiler there. But regardless of that, we don't know this at this point. Obviously, we think she's like happily in love and things are going well, and she's a teacher and things like that. Because we're met with her kind of writing her teacher name on like a board in a classroom. So she graduated from Hollis, and then yeah, she's just been kind of exploring her teacher career and things like that. But she's also been helping Cece. Cece has been in kind of a unit since her A reveal in season 6A. And Alison and Cece are still quite close because at this point they're sisters. They don't end up being sisters. I think they end up being cousins. But at this point, we know them to be family, right? They're family regardless, but I mean like sisters. Anyways, Alison has been helping Cece, seeing Cece, kind of keeping her together and things like that. But now there's a court case where Alison wants Cece to be let out. So she reaches out to the girls because they kind of need the girls' like opinion on whether they would feel safe or not, which I think is ridiculous from Alison's perspective, because Alison knows what it's like to have someone blackmail her and to feel scared for her life, and the girls went through so much with Cece, especially the dollhouse. The dollhouse was pure torture, and I can't imagine how the girls felt with that. And I think it's such an easy position for Alison to take because she wasn't in the dollhouse. So I think it's easy for Alison to sit here and be like, oh, like, Cece's fine now. Like, she's better. I understand that, and I understand people can change and things like that, but this is like a totally different thing. This is not, some sweet girl down the road. This is a murderer and a blackmailer and someone who tortured these girls and locked people up. So I'm like, I'm happy that Cece is fine mentally, but at the end of the day, she should be in prison for the rest of her life. But, like, that's just what I think. So I think Alison taking this perspective is actually a bit odd and a bit weird, and I think this only happens because the writers need them to come back somehow. So they're like, right, we'll just make this story. But it also sets up, Cece does get killed, so it sets up that story. But I think that story is really odd in there as well. I don't think that story was needed. That felt very unnecessary, I will say. I don't know. I don't think I would have killed Cece off. I don't think I would have let her out. And I would have just kept things how they were, and we would have had to come to another story to bring everyone back, because it felt very odd, because we had just been through all of that with the girls, and now it's like, oh, we're gonna let her out. That's weird. That's odd. Anyway, so Hannah's time away in the 5 years seemed actually really, really nice for her, except one big negative. Her and Caleb did split up. We'll get on to Caleb in a second, but her and Caleb did part ways, but she now has a fiance called Jordan. Now, I will say regarding the new relationships that we are introduced to through Aria and Hanna, the relationships are very out of place too, and I think they just wanted them to have a new relationship to be like, wow, like, so much has happened and these couples aren't together anymore, and part of finding their way back to each other and the endgame couples and things like that, because we're introduced to the new relationships. However, they're kind of just there for like a few minutes, really. I remember when I was watching with my friend, we would always talk about where are the boyfriends during this? Like, this is happening. Where like, where are these people? We don't see these people, and it is just a plot thing, really. It's a plot character. it's not really needed. So I will say that regarding the relationships, because it feels very odd and it feels very much, like Aria through the show would get new boyfriends and you couldn't really root for them because no matter what, her and Ezra would be endgame. It kind of feels like that because there's one relationship I really like. Toby, we'll get onto Toby, but Toby has a new partner, and I really, really liked this partner. I thought it was good for him. I thought it was healthy for him. He seemed like in a really good place. But then they do something to this love interest that's like, that's a bit unnecessary. You know what I mean? So I will say the relationships did feel a little bit odd, a little bit like, okay, what are we doing here? Like, what's the plan? Because it didn't really feel like there was a plan necessarily. So Hanna spent a lot of time in Europe during these 5 years where she met this said fiance, where she met like an Anna Wintour type of boss called Zach. But she had quite a good 5 years away. I think her working in fashion in New York is such a Hanna thing, and I love how they kind of stayed true to that character. I think that's such a good thing for Hanna to be part of, and I think it is just so Hanna and it's so her character, and the journey that we went through with her, from her kind of being bullied and things like that to her kind of being popular and into fashion and into appearance and stuff. Although she kind of got bullied into that and it wasn't a nice thing, we explored that she really liked that new stuff and that was her new way of who she was. So I kind of liked how she adopted that as a positive thing and made that kind of her career and her life. But when she comes back, we find out that the Radley is now a hotel. I'm pretty sure the bomb went off with Sarah. That's what they were planning to do. If not, they just knocked it down. I'm not sure if the bomb actually went off. I think it did because Sarah comes back and she has these burns on her hands. So I'm not too sure. Regardless, the Radley's not there anymore, and the Radley is now a hotel, and the owner of that hotel is actually Ashley. I really liked this. I really liked seeing Ashley in a really good place, in a really good state of mind, but also in a really good place financially. A lot of their issues came from money because Hannah's dad was just a big loser and just didn't help at all with money. Obviously Ashley was a single mom and it was very, very hard for them to live and to get by and to deal with that by themselves. So it was actually really, really nice to see them in a nice place financially, and they were stable and they were happy. And of course not everything is to do with money, but because of the storylines that we had with Ashley and Hanna, it was just really nice to see that and to see progression and to see Ashley kind of, settling down and actually being fine was really, really nice to see, because I love Ashley. I love her so much. So much. But yeah, that's where we are with Hanna. Regarding Caleb, when we come back, Caleb and Spencer become a thing. And once again, this ruined a lot of characters for me. I really liked Caleb because I thought he had Hannah's best interest, but also the girls' best interest at heart. He really cared about them, and I think Hanna really needed someone like that in her life, and I really liked Caleb. I think he was just so supportive. So for Caleb and Spencer to get together felt very odd too, and felt very unnecessary. And that's when I just felt so much disconnection from Pretty Little Liars and what it was, because it didn't need to happen. It ruined Caleb's character. For me, it ruined quite a bit of Spencer's character too, because that is such a girl code and you've been through so much with each other that I just think that's not an avenue that you need to go down at all. So it ruined characters for me, which was a shame. But that's kind of where we are regarding that. But nonetheless, at the end of the show, obviously Hanna and Caleb do get back together, planning children, stuff like that, which I don't think actually should have happened. I don't think any of the endgame couples should have happened, if I'm being honest with you, at the end of the show, which is why they should have ended it with the CC reveal, because like then it's like, okay, let's get on with our lives, with our partners and things like that. But season 6B, Aria and Ezra get married, obviously, and that I'm just so against, because that's just ridiculous. Alison and Emily get married, and also have children, which was not consensual, which I'm just so against too. I've always kind of been against the Emily and Alison relationship, because I think the way that Alison used Emily's sexuality against her in the previous seasons was so unfair when someone's still trying to discover that themselves. I think it was so unfair, and I never got on board with that relationship, to be honest. It's so fine if you like these relationships, by the way. It's just my opinion post CC reveal. Because I think it ruined a lot of the endgame characters for me. Hanna and Caleb, I don't think should have been together after the whole Spencer thing. And Spencer and Toby, I don't think should have been together. It's not said that they're together, but pretty sure they are. I don't think they should have been either. Because I really like Toby's love interest. So let's move on to that next, actually. Let's talk about Spencer and Toby. So Spencer spent a lot of her time in Washington whilst during these 5 years. She's working a lot towards Capitol Hill and things like that. Her mum, when we come back, her mum is running for Senator State. I think her mum and her dad have split, I'm pretty sure, at this date. Yes. So they're no longer together. But Spencer's working heavily towards a political kind of career. And that's kind of where she spent those 5 years. But Spencer and Toby have a scene where they kind of discuss their 5 years and things like that. Toby inherited a lot of money from when the Kavanaugh house blew up. He also got a degree, and he brought a new house that he was like kind of upgrading and building himself to try and win over Spencer, but Spencer didn't kind of come to that. And like I said, he now has a fiance called Yvonne. I really like Yvonne. I think, like I said, I think Toby's in a really good place at this point. I think Yvonne is who Toby needs. I think Spencer and Toby are actually very toxic for each other. I don't really like that relationship. So I think it was nice for me to see Toby doing other things, being with other people. But the show kills Yvonne off. And like I said, this is very unnecessary, because the show only did this so it could make way for Toby and Spencer to rekindle and things like that. And Toby and Spencer have this conversation about Caleb, and this is before kind of, I think Toby knows about the relationship, but Toby is like, yeah, him and Caleb went fishing over the summer, he's like a brother to him, and things like that. And then the whole relationship happened, and then with the show killing off Yvonne, to me, it was like, why are we forcing them to be back together? Because I think the Caleb thing is such a stab in the back moment, and Yvonne dying had no relevance to the story, had no impact on the story. It was just so that they could rekindle Spencer and Toby. So I do hate that happens. I remember when it happened, I was just like, what is this? Like, you know what I mean? So that's where we are with those two. Like I said, Spencer's just had a degree, had further education. She's working towards a political career. Her mum was inspired by Spencer, so decided to run for Senator State. And that's where we are regarding that. Obviously, so much happens with Spencer this season, so I think it's more her season rather than like previously what had happened, things like that. Emily has had a tough 5 years. She went to college, but she dropped out of college because her dad actually passed away. I kind of wish they did this on screen because I think the impact would have been so much more than what it was. I think Emily's character is quite bland, and a lot of Emily's storylines are regarding her relationships. And I find her relationships interesting up to a point. I really enjoyed the Maya stuff because Emily had a really solid story of learning, where she was with her sexuality and things like that. And I think that was really helpful to people watching, but it was also just really nice to see. And I think although it's a hard avenue for Emily to go down, I think it's a nice exploration thing for her to go through. However, after the Maya stuff, Emily's character kind of becomes quite bland, and I feel like for a lot of it, there's nothing really to her. I did enjoy the storyline where, she's having injury issues, but she wants to swim, so she's like using a lot of dangerous things, and that was nice. Not nice to see, I mean, but it gave Emily's character some more dimension, some more like, interest. But for the majority of the show, Emily's character is actually quite dull. No offense to her, lovely woman, but I kind of wish they did the "my dad is dead" story kind of on screen, because I think we explore a lot of Wayne and Emily's relationship, and her dad's a really nice person to have in her life because he's really there for her when she needs him, and when she was going through everything, he was just a shoulder of comfort, and it was really nice to see, actually, especially during her whole sexuality stuff, because although Wayne, said he had his opinion and he had his thoughts and beliefs, he doesn't care because he wants his daughter to be happy and alive and healthy. And I think that was really nice and really reassuring, not just to Emily but to the audience too. So I wish they had done that story kind of on character to give Emily and the audience a bit more connection, because I think we had drawn away from Emily quite a lot, and I think Emily had drawn away from the audience. It was, I don't know, it felt very bland to me, Emily's whole kind of character and where we were going with that. But yeah, we find out that Emily dropped out of college because she was really, really struggling. But we find out that she actually lied to her mum and her friends about it, and she said that she was still in college and things like that. But then on a darker route, when she comes back, we find out she has been taking pills. She's not in the greatest state of mind. I think she's very lost in herself, obviously, because she had lost such an important figure in her life. I think she had totally withdrawn from who she is. So her coming back was kind of interesting because just so much happened to Emily in those 5 years that, yeah, we get to explore that. And that's kind of giving Emily some character development within there. But I feel like with Emily, a lot of that was too late because I think the audience had already withdrawn from Emily quite a bit. So when we came back, it was like, okay. But like I said, at the end of the show, Emily and Alison have children with Ren, and also get married. But then we find out in The Perfectionist that they divorced quite soon. Like I said, don't like the Emily-Alison relationship. I just don't agree with it. So I wasn't too happy regarding this. But if you like this relationship or any of them, I'm not gonna bash you for it. It's just my opinion. Post Cece reveal. Let's move on to Aria. Aria has found a new relationship with someone called Liam. We can't celebrate because no matter what, when push comes to shove, Aria and Ezra will be together. So I knew as soon as they introduced this relationship to us, it was not gonna materialize. It was not going to expand. It was not going to go anywhere, really. Aria has been continuing with her writing career. This is still the avenue that she wants to go down. Because guess what? She's working for Ezra still. They're working on a book together. I'm just going to read this from my notes. She majored in photography and changed her major to writing. When we catch up with her, she works in publishing, and her and Ezra start working together. So you can obviously see from this, her relationship with Liam will not last that long at all. But Ezra is in a very broken state because he was with someone called Nicole, who we did kind of see a little bit before the time jump, but him and Nicole went kind of traveling, and Nicole ended up getting kidnapped. So he's very lost. He's dealing with an alcohol problem. He is just kind of spiraling because of all of this. We still don't know where Nicole is. Nicole does come back. But he, when Nicole comes back, he is engaged to Aria. And he kind of tells her that, you know, we can't be together because I'm now back here. There is a storyline where they struggle conceiving this season, which I think was a nice story, not a nice story to tell, but nice to experience, to, you know, connect with the audience with and things like that, because they're older and they're not teenagers anymore, and this is real life and this is reality. So they go through that. Obviously they get married at the end of the show, which not a fan. I'm not a Nikki fan. I don't like this relationship at all, and the way it got so far is crazy to me. Like, they're getting married and like no one bats an eyelid, which is crazy when you really think about it. Sorry if the camera has changed, my SD card got full. Anyways, yeah, no one thought to be like, guys, should we not say something here? Should we not intervene? You know what I mean? Like, hello. As for my best mate Mona, we don't really get too much regarding them. Once again, the writing goes through a really weird step. The girls at the end of the show are kind of close to Mona, but then when Mona returns, she's like not close with them again. I think there's a mention in there at some point that Mona and Hanna went on like a spring break type of thing. But in regards to that, we don't really know too much. That's kind of the main information regarding the time jump. But yeah, I'm just not too keen on the time jump. I'm not gonna lie. A lot of it felt odd. A lot of it felt out of place. The whole story of Alison wanting the girls to free Cece was a bit weird to me. Cece's death was a bit weird to me. I would have loved if Melissa had killed Cece. Actually, I would have really liked that story because I just think it is more, I don't know. Like, if we were going to go down the Cece death route, I think Mona was such an obvious choice for killing Cece. So I would have had Melissa do it. Because Melissa, to me, is a character that's still so, like, interesting. Because she was there, but, like, she wasn't there. You know what I mean? Kind of like Noel. Noel annoys the hell out of me because he's involved in every single storyline, like the important ones, like literally Alison disappearing and the dollhouse, and I'm like, but why is he here? Like, he's even in the blind house at the end of when we get the whole Mary Drake I'm your mom story. So Noel's a character that also really annoys me. He's very frustrating, but Melissa's kind of down that same path for me. But the only girl who I think they did well was Hanna. I feel like Hannah's where she's supposed to be. She's working in fashion. She's trying to find a new love. She's, working in New York, which is like high fashion. Obviously, Emily's situation is different, so I'm kind of disregarding that. I think Alison being a teacher is really funny. I don't think that's what Alison should be. Personally, and this might be an unpopular opinion, when Alison reveals herself to be alive, in that scene with the red coat, I would have written her out of the show after that, or kind of after she gave us the answers of, where she's been and who's helped her and things like that. I actually would have written her out of the show, because I don't like the redemption arc that they went down, but also I feel like Rosewood was in a position where it had kind of outgrown Alison, and Alison was no longer like the it person. Alison was no longer kind of like, I don't really think people were scared of Alison anymore. I feel like Rosewood just didn't have a place for her. I feel like when we get introduced to Alison, she's known as like the dead girl. I think she should have remained as the dead girl. She should have, told the girl she was alive and done her whole answers, this is what you want to know stuff. And then we leave it. And then we move on to the girls and whatever happens season 5 and 6. Because, I don't know, I don't think Alison should be in Rosewood anymore. I just don't think she should be there. She should be part of it. I never really saw her as one of the liars when she came back. And I just think her importance when she comes back just isn't really where it should be. I don't think the writers really knew how to work with her when she came back, because she's always been known as the mean girl, but when she comes back they want to do this redemption arc, but I just think the writing for that totally fails, totally flops. I don't think that should have happened. So her being a teacher makes no sense to me. And I also don't know how she could have become a teacher with, her life and things that she had done. And I think the Jenna thing gets really overlooked too. I don't think that's ever revealed to like the public that, Alison did that, but like Alison literally blinded a girl. Hello. So I don't know. I think a teacher is not the route for them to go down. I think you either write her out when she comes back, or you make her somehow connected to the Cece reveal in terms of Cece and Alison working together or something like that. Because for a show that is so surrounded by your main character, like everyone knows who Alison De Laurentiis is, her return and her character when she comes back is so boring and just so like, it just feels very underwhelming. So I actually, like I said, would have written her out. But the time jump, I wouldn't even have made a thing. I would have stopped it at season 6A, scrapped the CC reveal, scrapped it completely. Or if you want to keep the CC reveal, make it make sense, you'd have had to like rewrite it completely. I would have had Ren be Charles. I think that was the most obvious thing. There were so many clues that were pointing to Ren being Charles, and I think Ren being Charles makes so much sense. And it explains a lot of things, and I don't know, I just think things connect more with Ren being A. So yeah, I would have made Ren A completely. And then that's it. That's it, guys. We're going our separate ways. We're living our adult lives. Because then I think it's up for interpretation. Then I think it's kind of like, when they all say their goodbyes after the CC reveal, then I think it's left for us as the audience to come up with, this is how they're going to live their lives. Like, I would have Spencer be in some political field. But I would have had her and Toby apart. I would have had Caleb and Hannah working on fashion, Caleb doing some web stuff for her business or other businesses or whatever, them having a family. No Caleb and Spencer. None of that. And then I would have had Emily not be with Alison. I would have had Emily just going off and truly figuring out who she is, who she loves, her being comfortable in herself. I think there's still a lot of exploration Emily needs to do, not just, relationship wise or sexuality wise, but like I think in herself in general. I think there's a lot that needs to be done. Who am I forgetting? Aria? Aria would send that man to prison. Aria would go off and do her writing and things like that, and she would find someone who's actually in her age bracket, is sensible, and no, because this gets me, because it's like ridiculous. It really is ridiculous. So I want Aria to go off and to go live her life and do her writing and do her publishing, and I want her to find someone nice for her and someone that's just way more, I don't know, in her bracket, Ezra would either be in jail or just going off and doing his own thing. I don't care. Just get that man away from me. So a lot of the endings, I don't know, I felt like the time jump was such a thing of like, it was unnecessary because they got them all together with their endgame couples at the end of season 6A, and then 6B we come back and they've all split up, but then at the end of it, they all get back together. So I'm like, what was the point? Because I feel like we've just got to the point where we just were with the liars and their endgame couples and things like that. So I love the thing where it's kind of up for interpretation, where it's kind of like you can kind of think what happened to the liars in their lives past when they're a teenager and things like that. So yeah, I think coming back was very unnecessary and just not needed, if I'm being honest. But that is it for this video. That is the time jump. I would love to hear your opinions regarding it down below. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.